Hello everyone! Good day! I'm Elissa Mae E, Miñoza, one of the members of Group 5. So our topic is about literature arts. The learning outcome. At the end of discussion of this topic, students will be able to interpret and appreciate literature as an art form by analyzing its genres, aesthetic qualities, and cultural significance, with particular focus on Philippine literary works. So our agenda today, we have four agenda. 1. Literature as an art form. 2. Poetry, fiction, drama, and creative non-fiction. 3. Reading literature as an aesthetic experience. 4. Philippine literature in the arts.
Hi everyone, I am Lhera Mae Cabahug, and today I'll be sharing something that might sound serious and boring at first, but it is actually we see and hear every day. It is all about literature as an art form. Now, when we hear literature, we usually think of some old books, poems, stories, and other materials that are related to school nga kapoy kay basahon, right? But literature is actually more than that. It is an art and it is alive depending on how we express ourselves. Now, what is literature? Unsa man jud as literature? Well, literature is derived from the Latin word litera, which means writing formed with letter. And it refers to the creative work of imagination, including poetry, drama, fiction, non-fiction, journalism, and in some instances, song. Now, si literature kuno, it has an artistic value. So meaning, dili ra siya about for facts only. Dili ra siya for information. But it is also used to express emotion, imagination, and human experiences. So, nganong art man sad siya? Kay we usually think of basta makadungog kag art, we usually think of paintings, sculptures, drawings, music, right? But si literature is an art also, pero ang iyang gi-used is words and letters. So for example ana is magbasa tag il filibusterismo. Dili lang siya history, right? Dili ra na siya history. It also shows the pain, the hope, and the courage of Filipino during that time. So, literature DI is not just writing. It's a way of feeling and imagining through words. Next, let's talk about the purpose and function of literature. Number 1, expression and communication. It expresses human thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So, from the word itself, expression, writers DI use literature to express what they feel and what they think without even telling it to someone. So, for example, na is kanang para ng Dear Diary, di ba? We tend to write na lang instead of saying it to someone. Kay naman yung times nga dili ta ka diretso og istorya ana sa lain. Pero masuwat nato. And if mabasahan sa uban ang ato ang diary, diha mugawas ang atong communication. Maka-communicate through literature, maka-communicate ka ana with others. Kay maka-feel man sila og makasabot sila og nganong naunsa na og nganong naunsa ka. Next is the reflection and critique. It mirrors society and question its values and issues. So, si literature DI is used also to criticize what is wrong in our society. For example, ana is kanang mga FB post good karon nga mga about sa politics, sa flood control, di ba tag-as kay na sila mga essay ba na para lang ma-express ilahang thoughts, para lang ma-criticize ang mali sa atong gobyerno. The third one is the aesthetic pleasure. It gives enjoyment through the beauty of words and rhythm. From the word itself, enjoyment, malingaw ka og basa ana nga literature. Again, mao na akong giingon nga dili tanan literature is serious and boring. Naasay mga literature nga malingaw ka og basa, like poetry, mga rom-com nga mga stories, makaingon ta nga, nindot lagi ni siya basahon, nindot lagi ni siya rhythm, nindot lagi ni siya wordings, di ba? Mauna ang aesthetic pleasure, maka-give og kalingaw, malingaw ka sa imong gibasa. So the fourth one is the preservation of culture and history. It passes down our traditions and knowledge. So si literature di ay keeps our culture alive. Kay if walay literature nga nabuhat sa una, wala sad tay idea og unsay ilahang the way they live sa una, di ba? Wala tay idea og unsay nahitabo sa ato ang country sa una, og unsay ilahang na experience ana nga tayma. For example, ana is mga books ni Dr. Jose Rizal, which is the Noli Me Tangere and the El Filibusterismo. Diba? Og wala na sila, wala tay idea og unsay mga experiences sa mga tao sa una. Katong time nga gisakop pa ta. Next, other example is mga Ibong Adarna, mga Florante at Laura, kanang mga stories nga gipasa-pasa good through generation. Last but not the least, the empathy and understanding. It lets readers see life from other perspectives. From the word itself, empathy. Maka-feel ta og unsay na feel sa lain, especially sa ato ang mga nabasa. If makabasa ka og kanang life nga nag-struggle ang usa ka tawo, maka-feel sa ta nga murag nag-struggle sa ta bisag wa ta ka experience ana personally, di ba? Now, let's talk about the literary devices or the techniques writers use to make their work artistic. First, we have the figurative language. These are the expressions that go beyond the literal meaning. For example, if mo ana kog broken heart, dili man jud literally nga mabungkag ang imong heart, diba? It's just describe pain. So, mauna ang figurative language. Mo go beyond siya sa literal nga meaning. Under the figurative language, we have here the metaphor. It describes something by saying it is something else. For example, time is thief. Dili man literally no nga kawatan ang oras. It just means that ang oras is dali mudagan and it takes away the moment that we should savor more. Next is the simile. It compares two things using like and as. For example, her smile is like the sun. Dili man sad literally nga iyahang smile is murag adlaw. It just means that ang iyahang smile is bright and calm just like the sun. Next is the personification. It is when something is described as if it is a person. For example, the wind whispered through the trees. So, ang wind there can't really whisper, but it feels like nag-whisper siya kay it talks slowly just like the wind. Last but not the least is the imagery. It uses descriptive language to create sensory experience and mental pictures. For example, the sun rise behind those mountains. So diha is maka-imagine sa ta nga kanang ang sun is naa jud sa ni rise jud siya sa luyo sa mga mountains, or in simpler terms is nag-sunrise jud. So, kung naa din nga mga devices, it makes writing more emotional and creative instead of feeling plain and boring lang. Kaya if atong mabantayan, walay inana sa mga research paper o uban pa nga mga formal letters, which is makaingon sa jud ta nga boring sa jud siya, no? Next is the sound devices. This gives rhythm, music, or flow sa words bisag walay melody, pero mura gihapon siya kanta paminawon. Nindot siya paminawon. Under the sound devices, we have alliteration. It is the repetition of the sound of the first syllable in a word or in a neighboring word. For example is a tongue twister, like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, or she sells seashells on the seashore. That is alliteration. Next is the assonance. It is the repetition of the vowel sound. For example is, I like to smile and lie under the sky. Diba? Ang nagsigigbalik nga vowel sound is the letter I. Next is the consonants. More gihapon siya og assonance, but kung si assonance is sa vowel, sa consonants is sa consonant, from the word itself, consonant. So, for example is Humpty Dumpty, TikTok, or the big dog rug. Diba? Nagsigigbalik-balik ang mga consonant letters. Next is the onomatopoeia. It is a word imitates the sound it represents. For example, if bomb gani is matik, ang tingog ana is boom. If cat sad is ang tingog ana is meow jud. And if sa iro or sa dog, ang tingog ana is arf arf. So meaning ana, it imitates the sound nga gi-represent ana. Next is the last day is the rhythm and meter. This applies to poetry and also sa lyrics sa kanta. It gives its beat and flow. For example na is rhythm, pareha sila og kanang sound, and meter is pareha sila og measurement. Example na is a poetry jud, like roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. So mauna ang rhythm and meter. So these are the sound devices. And if naa din siya no, is mo give siya sa imuhang writing og music, emotion, and power, turning ordinary words into something that feels alive. Kay dili siya boring no, paminaw no if naay mga inana. Then we have the narrative techniques. It is the elements of the storytelling. Ngano naam na siya? It's because para organize imuhang story or ang imuhang gihimo nga literature, para dili siya chaotic basahon and dili siya makalibog sa readers. So sa narrative technique is naatay gitawag nga point of view or who tells the story. Diri naatay duha ka perspective, which is the first person and the third person. So first person is murag ikaw ang naka experience sa imuhang gibasa, while the third person is igura jud ka nag storytell ana nga imong gibasa. For example, sa first person is mingon kag I walked alone. Sa third person said is she walked alone. Diba? Mura kag nag storytell sa character sa imuhang gibasa. Next is the plot structure. Sequence na siya sa mga events sa story, like beginning, middle, ug end. So for example ana is kanang namjutay mga girly diha nga mabasa og Wattpad og mga romance book, diba? Usually kay ang plot ana niya is mag-love, conflict, heartbreak, realization, then happily ever after. Diba? Naam jud siya kanang murag stages ba? Mauna ang plot structure para dili siya makalibog-libog good, kay lain pod og mag-una ka sa pinakalas bisag wa pa ka nagsugod sa imuhang story, diba? Next is the characterization, how the author shows the personality of the character. Kanang sa characterization is mauna ang mag-state og unsang klaseng taw ang imuhang gibasa or unsay klase nga character. For example is si Maria Clara is, we all know man jud nga gentle and respectful siya, diba? Mao na ang characterization. Last is the setting. It is the time and place where the story happens. masabotable naman jud, di ba? Kay ang setting is ug asa nahitabo ug kanusa nahitabo ang story. So mauna ang mga narrative techniques. It helps writers build a whole world and make the story realistic and engaging.
Hi there! Again, I'm Elissa Mae E. I'm talking about drama, creative nonfiction, and fiction. But first, let's go to drama. Drama is a theatrical dialogue performed on stage. It consists of 4 different acts. 1. Tragedy. Tragedy, it is a story of major character faces bad luck, its horrors and struggle usually concludes with the death of a person. So example of a tragedy is Shakespeare plays Romeo and Juliet. Number 2, comedy. The lead character overcomes the conflicts. Overall, comedy is full of laughter and handles issues very lightly. Example of that, Saturday Night Live. Number 3. Let's go to number 3. Melodrama. Melodrama, it is a blend of 2 notes, melody and drama. It is a musical play, most popular by 1840 and has a happy ending like comedy. So example of melodrama is a Titanic, yung katong movie nga Titanic. So I think murag kita man guro tanan ang nakakita siguro ato, no? Nakatan-aw. So number 4, tragic comedy. A play that begins with serious mood but has a happy ending. So dili kay ni siya common na kanang movie, no, kay kanang American man di siya. So The Merchant of Venice. So mo na example of tragic comedy. So elements of drama. First, plot, the events and play. Second, setting, time and place of a literary work. So asa na siya gikuan, iya oras o asa na siya gibuhat. Then ikatulo, characters, people or creatures in play. Kinsa man tong mga muganap, kinsa ang lead o ang second lead, ana. Then dialogue, conversations in a play. Theme, the central thought of a play, the idea or ideas with which a play deals. Scenery, the various elements that are used to create a particular visual setting for a play. So, that's all for the drama. Creative nonfiction, the branch of literature comprising works of narrative prose dealing with or offering opinions or conjectures upon facts and reality, including biography, history, and essay. So, ang example ng creative nonfiction is atong memoirs, journal. That's an example of creative nonfiction. True to life na example. So, elements of creative nonfiction deals only with real people, events, or idea. Second, narrated form point of view or perspective of the author who is a real person. Third, nonfiction presents facts or discusses concepts. Fifth, it may reflect historical context of the time period, including references to major social and cultural information. So, fiction are written stories about people and events that are not real. For example, Kwentong Pambata and MSA. Literature that tells stories which are imagined by the writer. Elements of fiction. A. Plot. Plot, it is the skeletal framework of the story wherein the events are arranged in a meaningful sequence. So, the plot should be exciting and should have good structure. Parts of the plot. 1. Exposition refers to the layout of the materials for the story or introduction. 2. Complication rising action where the major conflict of the story are presented. 3. Climax, the peak of the story or action where the dilemma is faced by the main characters. 4. Resolution, the falling action. 5. Denouement, ending or the conclusion. B. Setting, the time and place of action. It refers to the physical, local, climatic condition, and historical period where the story is taking place. C. Theme, the generalization about human life or character that a story explicitly or implicitly embodies a philosophical truth. It is the central idea of the story and revolves around the significant human experience. It's not the moral message. It's not always made explicit at same point of the story. Must embody some state of man's thinking. D. Character, the set of people embodied within a human experience. There are two major characters are the protagonist, the main or the what we call main character, and antagonist, the villain. But sometimes the line between the two is blurred, like the anti-hero. Round versus flat, dynamic versus static. Elements of fiction. E. Point of view, the narrative voice of the story. It is the vantage point from which the characters, action, and events are seen. First person POV, I or we, limited to himself. So, dramatic or objective POV, story revealed through the dialogues between characters and through their action. Omniscient POV, the voice is outside the work, which allows the description of the inner thoughts and emotion of any and all he characters in the story. So, F. Conflict, the dilemma faced by the main character of the story. Types of conflict. Person versus self. Person versus society. Person versus supernatural. Person versus person. Person versus nature. And person versus machine or technology. That's all.
Good day everyone, I am Venice Cimafranca and today we're gonna tackle about the poetry. So, poetry is like a short burst of words that tries to share a feeling or idea in a creative way. So, it's okay nga dili siya rhyme or murag kanta as long as you need to make you think or feel something. So, ang example sa poetry is Bahay Kubo, Liron-Liron Sinta, and Magtanim ay di biro. So, poetry uses creative language and sound to make you feel or think something, which is the theme and symbolism. So, theme is what the poem is mainly about, and symbolism is the hidden meanings in the poem's word. So, poets are free to break the rules of language to express themselves. So, there are 5 elements of a poetry, which is the meter, rhythm, rhyme, simile, and metaphor. So, meter is the basic structure of a poem determined by the number of syllables in a line. So, rhythm is the musical quality of a poem created by the sounds of the words when read aloud. And rhyme when words sound alike, usually at the ends of the line. And simile is a comparison using like or as. And lastly, metaphor is a direct comparison saying something is something else. Ang meter day in simple words is like the beat of a song, but for a poem, it's how many clap each line has. So, for example, I went to see a cat. So, kini nga example na tulo ka syllables or tulo ka beats. Mo ni siya example sa meter tungod kay ang pattern kay gasunod-sunod nga mga word. Sa rhythm pod, the music you hear when you read a poem out loud. Some parts sound fast, some are slow. So, for example, the wind was whistling a lonely tone. So, ang rhyme pod is words that sounds the same at the end. So, for example, cat and fat. So, like, parihara silag sounds sa first one and sa last word. So, and simile is when you say something is like something else. For example, the sky was as blue as the ocean. So, iyang gi-compare ang sky of ocean using as. And sa like naman is he ran like a cheetah. So, gi-compare niya iyang kakusog sa speed sa iyang pagdagan sa cheetah. And lastly, metaphor, when you say something is something else, but you really don't really mean it. So, for example, he is a lion on the battlefield. So yung gi-compare yang ang usa ka laki ug ang lion, suggesting he is a brave and a fierce.
Good day everyone, I am Marie Tac, Ibale, and I'll be discussing the reading literature as an aesthetic experience. So first, let's talk about what is aesthetic experience and when we feel it. So, aesthetic experience, we feel it when people sight a physical location or a things that they attract or catch their meaningful experience or catch their attention. Kasagaran pinaanggi sa kanindot sa design or art, sumatrak sila ana. Kini if ilang makita, maka-feel sila ng deep appreciation sa art sila nakita, usually in emotion or intellectually. So when we say aesthetic experience, when reading literature, it happens when reading story, poem, or any written works that create a story or emotional reaction. Like, maka-feel ka of wonder, beauty, sadness, or joy sa imong nabasa. But it is not just about understanding the words nagigamit sa author, but it's all about feeling something deep, what the writers want to convey. In literary aesthetic, the appreciation of works, beauty, and aesthetic values often centers around four elements. We have language, form, emotion, and ideas. So first, we have language, the writer's words and styles. Kabasa mo sa na example na kabasa mo sa poem or sa novels na the wind blows my hair, diba? So, kanang deep at one meaning na siya pero mas kuan siya feelings, mas deeper yung feelings na gigamit. So next is form, the shape or symmetry of the writing. So kay di ba kasi kan sa poem kay we have different kinds of poem. It can be haiku, di ba? So yung iyahang shape ay iyahang structure di na nagkalahi-lahi sa emotion, the feelings in the story or poem. It can be sad, happiness, sadness, enjoyment, daghan siya og emotion. Ideas, the deeper message or meaning behind the work. So, the story, it has a deeper meaning. It can be a societal issue na gi-address, di ba? Like example sa novel na Jose Rizal, nagi siya deeper meaning that addresses the issue of our society. So kasagaran nga gigamit sa mga author gid kay kanang mga current issues to kanang connect with societal issue or with the community. Learning how to really understand and enjoy reading, not just to read to get information, it's all about making reading more meaningful. So first, we have to pay attention to the language. You need to notice the author's word choices and their meaning. Second, engage emotionally. Allow yourself to feel the emotion conveyed by the text. Third, reflect on meaning. Consider the deeper themes and ideas presented. Fourth, read actively. Discuss and revisit message that resonate with you, and you can also discuss it to other people around you. So by that, you will be know or feel what is the really matter of reading or meaning of reading a novel, poems, etc. or literary works. So why reading is important? Unsa day maka-benefit na to ani? Nga day we need to feel the aesthetic feelings behind many of reading materials. So there are four main reasons why reading and feeling the aesthetic meaning behind it is important. First, it enhances our appreciation of literature because when we love books more, we see how important the message they are written. Second, and it deepens our understanding of ourselves in the world. So we will understand ourselves, not only ourselves, but also the world better by learning about peoples and ideas. Thirdly, it provides a source of pleasure and enrichment. So reading becomes more fun and makes our lives more better. Lastly, it cultivates empathy and critical thinking. So we will understand others' feelings and think more clearly and carefully.
So, good day everyone. I am Marie Tac and I'll be discussing the Philippine literature and the arts. This topic is important because it helps us understand how literature reflects who we are as a Filipinos, our identity, our struggles, and our creativity. So, what is Philippine literature? So, Philippine literature refers to the body of literary works created by Filipinos and it reflects our diverse cultures, language, and experience. Kani siya kay gisuwat sad ni sa daghan nga mga languages like Tagalog, Cebuano, Ilocano, Bicolano, even English and Spanish. This shows the rich linguistic diversity of our country. Ang literature importante kaayo kay naghatag kini og identity nato isip usa ka Pilipino. So there are 4 historical development in the Philippine literature. So number 1 is the pre-colonial literature. So before colonization, our ancestors already had their own rich oral tradition. They told stories through epics, myths, proverbs, riddles, kanang like mga bugtong gani. And these were passed down from generation to generation para magtudlo og kanang mga moral lesson and to preserve the culture. So kani nga mga works show that Filipinos were already creative and intelligent long before colonization. So second is the Spanish colonial period. When the Spaniard came, they brought Christianity, the Roman alphabet, and the Spanish language. They influenced our literature by introducing the religious work like Passion, Awit, Corrido, like for example like Florante at Laura. And then later on, writers started creating propaganda literature, expressing nationalism. So, nagsugod ang panitikan nga makabansa nga nag-auhag sa kalayaan. So, third is the American colonial period. So, during the American era, English was introduced as the medium of instruction. This opened new opportunities for Filipino writers to experiment with short story, novels, and essays. They explored themes of identity, freedom, and modern life. So, ang panitika ni ining panahon na nagpakita sa kausaban o pagkamamugnaon sa mga Pilipino. And lastly is the post-colonial and contemporary period. So, after independence, literature became more diverse and critical. Ang mga writers daw kay nag-istorya na about sa mga social injustice, politics, mga corruption, and even environmental concern. We also have modern forms like digital literature, spoken word poetry, and graphic novels. So, kanino kay karong panahon na nagpadayon gihapon ang panitikan sa pag-uswag nga nagrepresentar sa boses sa mga Pilipino. So, there are common themes in the Philippine literature, so like nationalism, freedom and resistance, family and community, faith and spirituality, social justice and equality. So, these themes show that literature is not just art, it's also a voice for truth and change. So, diversity of forms from traditional epics and folk song to modern spectacular fiction and poetry reflect the adaptability and creativity of Filipino writers. Each form offers a new ways of expressing cultures and identity. So kini nagpakita nga ang mga Pilipino usa ka mamugnaon nga mga katawhan. Kanang ang Pilipino daw kay creative, emotional, ug kanang full taog imagination. So regional literature plays a huge role in preserving local identities. For example, Cebuano literature has a great writers like Vicente Soto and Marcel Navarra. Through their works, ma-preserve nato nga ang atong pamulungan o kultura. It helps us hear voices from all parts of the Philippines, not just Tagalog or sa Manila. Significance of literature. So, kani kay it helps us see the world through different perspective. It encourages empathy, critical thinking, and creativity. It's also connect the past and the present, allowing us to learn from our ancestors while imagining a better future. So, in conclusion, Philippine literature is more than just story or poems. It's a living record of our culture and our spirit. And it continues to thrive, reminding us of who we are and what we can become. Through literature, we discover that art is not only seen or heard, it's also felt and understood. So, that will be all. Thank you.
In conclusion, literary art enriches lives by providing insights into humanity, expanding global understanding, and promoting empathy and critical thinking. It encourages meaningful engagement with language and appreciation of diverse perspectives. In the Philippines, literature remains a vibrant art form that reflects the country's unique identity and cultural heritage.